I am. Oh! I mean, no, I'm not. I always get that wrong.
Confess, Fletch.
Hello, I'm Rex Lita with the Midday News. The government has signed a memorandum of understanding with the RD Corporation to enter into negotiations to set up a fishing company in Midday. The primary aim of the MOU is to negotiate commercial terms for the state and RD Corporation to set up a joint venture company to initially fish and process all the catch in the new possible cannery within the PNG in Midday as a special economic zone. Minister for International Trade and Investment Richard Maru said this is a historical initiative of the Marape Rosso government to go into domestication of the fishing industry, where for the first time have a large fishing company to fish in the waters of PNG. Prime Minister James Marape was scheduled to officiate at the MOU signing in Port Moresby today. The National Agriculture Quarantine and Inspection Authority have the incursion of coffee berry borer in PNG with no government funding. Apart from the CBB, Nakia is also managing the outbreak of African swine fever in Southern Highlands, Enga and Hela since its incursion in 2020. Managing Director Joel Alu lamented that government support through budgetary allocation has been non-existent for the agency.
Because of funding issues, there's a lot of challenges. Challenges in the sense that we cannot be able to send our officers, our technical officers, to do monitoring surveillance to find out whether we have disease in this country or whether disease is arriving, and then at the same time to make sure that our ports of entry at the borders, like for example Midday, Ley is our biggest port. Our officers are there 24 hours to make sure that the containers that are coming in are not carrying harmful pests and diseases.
Papua New Guinea will take center stage at the inaugural Papua New Guinea Asia Investment Conference in Hong Kong, organized by the PNG Chambers of Mines and Petroleum, with support of and in partnership with the national government. PNG Chamber of Mines and Petroleum President Antonis Mare made these remarks when responding to Prime Minister Marape's public announcement of this new investment promotion conference in Hong Kong. Smara said the PNG Asia Investment Conference will feature the Prime Minister and the government outlining opportunities for investment and trade with PNG, success stories of Asia investment in PNG, and how PNG is powering Asian growth through supply of energy and other exports. He added that there is significant interest in PNG from the Chinese market, and there has been a lot of interest from other Asian markets due to momentum generated by events such as recent state visit by Indian Prime Minister Modi and Indonesian President Widodo, and Japan's JX Nippon's investment into Papua LNG announced last week. In regional news, there are mounting fears Australia could be facing a nasty flu season, with 2 children dying this month after contracting the influenza B strain. One was an 11-year-old girl from Queensland, the other a New South Wales teenager. Vaccination rates has also plummeted across the country, and some experts say the cost of getting the jab is partly to blame.
Adelaide pharmacist Greg Scarlett was overrun with customers wanting flu vaccines during the COVID pandemic. But this year, demand has plummeted.
Not just one or two, I'm talking 20-30% less probably than what we did last year.
It's a trend happening across the country. The number of flu vaccinations administered in Australia this year has fallen by 17.7% compared to this time last year. Every state and territory has recorded a drop, with South Australia down more than 20% and New South Wales, Victoria and Queensland seeing similarly large falls.
It's relatively concerning because we know that the flu cases are on the rise and flu can be really nasty for some people.
We may see more people presenting to hospitals or ending up hospitalised, and of course influenza is a serious disease, so it can result in deaths.
The flu vaccine is free for vulnerable groups such as older people and those with medical conditions. But health workers say cost is still a barrier to lifting vaccination rates.
For a family of four where nobody's covered by the National Immunisation Program, that could cost $80 to $100 for the family, so it's a significant expense.
We think it should be a free vaccine for everyone, then at least providers could get on with providing it rather than try to work out who's going to fund it.
Vaccine fatigue after the pandemic is also turning people off flu jabs.
But I have noticed some of my patients are saying they're a bit over it. They've had their COVID vaccines, they've had other vaccines, they don't want anything more.
But with Australia already reporting more than 116,000 flu cases and 107 deaths this year, doctors are urging people to roll up their sleeves and get vaccinated.
Foreign Minister Penny Wong met Wang Yi on the sideline of a regional summit in Jakarta amid growing concerns on whether China is doing enough to set conditions for Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to visit Beijing this year. Bill Battle's Indonesia correspondent, Penny Wong, Foreign Minister.
This is the fourth time that Penny Wong and Wang Yi have met in the past 12 months. They are very familiar to each other as counterparts, and this meeting came as questions are increasingly being asked about whether it's appropriate for Prime Minister Anthony Albanese to travel to Beijing later this year. The trip would symbolise the Australia-China relationship improving, but there are still many unresolved issues. And Penny Wong said her talks with Wang Yi were candid.
It was a frank conversation, and it was a conversation in which a number of issues were raised, certainly in relation to trade impediments. I acknowledged the progress we have seen in recent months and reiterated our expectation that this progress continues.
On trade, there's been a bit of a setback this week. Back in April, Australia agreed to drop a challenge at the World Trade Body against the crushing tariffs that China imposed on Australian barley. In exchange, China pledged to review those tariffs over 3 months. The expectation was it would lift them because Australian officials were otherwise very confident of winning at the World Trade Organization. But this week, the Chinese government says it needs at least another month. Now, some Australian exports like coal and timber have been able to get back into the Chinese market, but on others, things like wine and lobsters, there's basically been no movement. I asked Penny Wong if she believes the Chinese government has genuinely been making efforts to improve the relationship with Australia.
My view is we're seeing some progress on trade. We would like to see more. We have said we want to stabilise the relationship, we want to engage, we're doing that. The way we talk about it is cooperate where we can, disagree where we must, and engage in our national interests.
Penny Wong will remain in Jakarta on Friday for the East Asia Summit. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is here. The Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, he's here too. So obviously this forum will be dominated by discussion of Russia's war in Ukraine and the broader tensions between China and US in the region.
In sports, the Commanders Defence Cup is into its second day of the tournament, and the reigning champions are already leading the race. HM PNG's Basilic Marlins recorded the Mets 13 points to 3 against the Goldie Warriors. 13 was the highest point scored in the first day of the tournament by any team. Marlins is playing 11:34 Crocs today. 11:34 Crocs lost to HQ PNG DF Chefs 0-5 in the first day of the tournament. In other matches, one RPIR Diggers played Goldie Warriors this morning. In the midday clashes, FSB Tigers is taking on HQ PNG DF Chefs, while Troopers take on 2 RPIR Muruks. ATW Eagles and HM PNG's Tarangau Sharks will round up the day 2 matches. Despite attracting interest from the NRL following his stellar form in England, Lay Leopard star hooker Edwin Ipape is going nowhere. That's according to the current head coach Adrian Lam, who has reaffirmed his commitment in retaining the Papua New Guinea international. Ipape is currently one of the best number 9s in the Super League competition and was tipped as the favourite to win the 2023 Man of Steel award ahead of the season's kickoff by the bookmakers. The Korean Cultural Centre in Sydney aims to bring South Korea culture to people living in Australia. Employees will be sharing that spirit while supporting their country at the FIFA Women's World Cup, which kicks off next week.
Oh, peace in Korea! Oh, peace in Korea! Oh, peace in Korea! Oh, ore, ore,
Korean Culture Center is an organization promoting Korean culture here in Australia and helping cultural exchanges between our two countries.
I think it's very special to have the Women's World Cup in Australia, as Australia is a multicultural country, and I think this will be like an amazing time, an opportunity for all those people to come together with their home country and feel like they're coming as one and cheering for their country.
I'd say I support both. Luckily this upcoming matches we're not versing Australia, so I get to support both Australia and Korea. If we tend to verse each other, I would say I'd support Korea.
100% Korea, like 100%. Any matches, any sports matches, I would be going for Korea. And it's really fun because I think a lot of people feel the same way that have been living in Australia for a long time. They feel like Korea is closer to them, I think. So every time we have a match like this, we go to a pub and we have chicken and beer and we watch the tournaments together. So I think it's very exciting.
I'm actually really excited to go to the games and cheer with all our other fans. Hopefully they'll get to the finals like all fans will think and win the Women's World Cup. But even if they don't, we'll be definitely proud of our players. Any round will be proud.
That's it for the Midday News. Join us for more at 6 p.m.